Hi, my name is Tony. Have you ever wanted to take a trip to Oregon, maybe down the coast into Northern California? You're not sure what to see, where to go. Maybe you want to stay in some interesting places and you just don't have time to do the research. I can help. I'm so excited to share with you the trip my wife and I took. If you like what you see, please press like and subscribe to my channel where you will find more places that we have been to. A few things that you'll see in the video. We're going to see some interesting places to stay. Oh, there's some absolutely amazing hikes and some views that you just will be awed by. And maybe a few places you've never heard of. Just a couple things to know about our trip before we get started with pictures and videos. First of all, we traveled 10 days and 9 nights. We find that that's the perfect time for us. We normally say that 2 days it takes to start relaxing, and 2 days you start gearing up to go back to work. So if you take 7 days, you only have about 3 days off. So we figure 10 days, we get 6 days off. It's a very relaxing trip. We travel inexpensively. We try to find places that maybe are a little out of the way, but they sure save us a lot of money. And the places we stayed, we booked normally about 7 months in advance. And we love to hike and find places that are just sometimes unknown. So here's our trip. We started in Portland, Oregon. We flew in there, rented a car, went up into southern Washington, went all the way down the Oregon coast to Eureka, California, back up through Crater Lake, and then into the Columbia Gorge, starting at the Dalles, making our way back over to Portland, about 1,700 miles. A pretty average trip for us. Here's the first place we stayed. The first night was in Calumet, Washington, a little small hotel called the Hotel Calumet. As you can tell, it was a quaint hotel. Nothing special, just a small town. But it was beautiful. Very well decorated and clean, and the breakfast was okay. Here's the desk where you register. It was upstairs, but they do have an elevator if you need it. We made our way over to the coast, and you find an old abandoned boat I just thought it was interesting. We also took pictures of the Astoria Bridge. This is the bridge that goes over to Astoria from Washington. Another picture of part of that bridge. It's a large truss bridge. I believe it's the largest in the U.S. We went ahead and went on to Fort Clatsop. We decided not to stay in Astoria for any length of time because we weren't interested in the movie that was made there. But Fort Clatsop actually was a fort where Lewis and Clark ended their famous journey. As you can tell, they have redone the fort very well. It's a beautiful place to spend a few hours walking around and learning about their life. This shows us how they actually lived. It helped us to understand a little bit more about how rough life really was. Then we get to Cannon Beach. Cannon Beach is probably the most popular beach or well-known beach on the Oregon coast. A lot of pictures have been taken there, as you can well see here in a minute. As we're high above Cannon Beach, we also looked out to the ocean. There's actually a lighthouse over to the right. I zoomed in on it on the next photo. And as I zoom in on Cape Meares Lighthouse, you can tell it's a very beautiful lighthouse. So here's the opposite view of Cannon Beach. Now you can see that famous rock that everybody sees in different pictures and videos. Just a beautiful, beautiful place. And another view that will lead into a video. And then we just continue down the beach. I'm going to let you enjoy a few pictures and then we'll pick up the audio here in a minute. Since my wife is a rockhound, we had to stop at Agate Beach. My wife wanted to find some agates. We thought that there would be a lot on the beach, but there wasn't. In fact, when we went to Agate Beach, we did not find one agate while we were there. An agate is a rock that light can shine through. It's light permeable. And we looked and looked and looked and did not find one. Now, even though the outside temperature was warm, the ocean is cold, and walking in the waves would have been very cold. We actually bought rubber boots before we went so we could walk through the waves and look down in the water to see if we might be able to find one. Unfortunately, we didn't find one at Agate Beach. While we stopped for gas that evening, I talked to one of the locals, and she told me you ought to try Nye Beach. So that's what we did. As you can tell, we did find one. The middle of the display box my wife had me make for shows just how the light can shine through it. This one actually is a rather large agate. Then we make our way to Devil's Churn. We planned to be there at high tide. We actually got there a little bit early. So in order to kill some time, we decided to go up on the hill there at Cape Perpetua. We walked out and we seen the scenic overlook that we got to. This was used during World War II to look for enemy ships as they may approach the west coast. Here's one of the views from that outlook. As you can see, there's some very beautiful places to see here. You can tell why they would have selected this spot to be looking for enemy ships. You can see a long way, even though the fog is rolling in some. Here's a path that will lead down to Devil's Churn. It looks treacherous, but really it wasn't bad at all. Another picture of Devil's Churn. And some of the splashing out toward the beginning of Devil's Churn. You'll see more in the video here in just a moment. One more of the larger ones. And another. Wow. That was huge.
Wow.
Just as a reminder, high tide is when you really want to go. It's the best time to see some of the most activity in these areas. Here we find Thor's Well. Thor's Well is actually an opening right in front of the couple that's in the middle of the slide. And as you can tell, whenever the tide goes out, so does the water go down. Just another picture of some of the sprays that are around this area. It's just a beautiful area, an amazing area to see some of the sprays come up out of the ocean. A beautiful picture of the coast. You'll see several of these now, and I'm just going to let you enjoy. Here's part of a complex where a lighthouse is at. The Hector Head Lighthouse, you can go up to it. My wife and I chose not to because her knee was bothering her. But it is a beautiful lighthouse set where you can see and get close to it. The next stop is the Sea Lion Cave. It is an amazing place. Even though there's an admission to it, it's well worth the money. Here you see some sea lions on the side of a hill. And as I zoom in, you see them even closer up. And you can see there just seems to be all over the place. There are some down near the shore, and there's typically some in the water. This is actually the Sea Lion Cave itself. There was no sea lions there the day that we were there. They were all outside enjoying the warm weather. Some of the sunsets, because of the fog, were just beautiful. The air was warm, the water was cold, and it creates the fog. Another view of the beach from high up. A beautiful place to go. This is another place to find agates, but we didn't make the hike down. More views of the beach. It's just incredibly rugged. As you can see, people were on the beach. They go out and they explore. We finally make it to Eureka and stay at the Eureka Inn. Eureka Inn is a place where several presidents and various celebrities have stayed. It's a beautiful old hotel. It was a little bit pricier than most of the places we stayed, not all of them, but it was well worth the charm that you'll see here in a moment. A lot of nostalgia here. You find a lot of different old things that just interest us. The cafeteria, even though it was closed, you could look in and see what it looked like. This is the lobby of the hotel. And some more display cases. Then we make it back up to where the redwoods are. There's big trees everywhere, as you can plainly tell. Here's a view as we are looking up at the redwoods. Massive trees, beautiful trees. Here's one of the root systems on one of the trails we took. We didn't hike a lot here, but the hikes that we took were absolutely gorgeous. This is a big tree. It's called the big tree. As you can tell, it is a very large tree. Here's the specifications for it. And you can tell in this picture the mass of the tree and how beautiful they are as you look up to a blue sky. Now we get to my favorite part of the trip. This is Crater Lake. It was part of my bucket list. This is an imploded volcano. The only water that gets in it is rainwater and snowmelt. The water is literally this blue that you find here in this picture. This picture has not been doctored in any way. It is just an amazing place. We spent most of the day here. We ended up picnicking on one of the overlooks that overlooked the lake. You can see by the number of pictures I took that I really like this place a lot. Different angles, different views, but the same blue water. From Crater Lake, we traveled up to Bend, Oregon, spent the night, and then over to Silverton, Oregon, where we actually spent the night at Oregon Garden Resort. While there, we visited Silver Falls State Park. There are 10 waterfalls, 7-mile hike if you want to do all 10. There's several that you can walk behind. We just chose a few. This is South Falls. If you look closely, you can see the trail behind the falls. Here's another picture where you can see the trail even better. Here we are behind the falls, looking down, watching it splash into the pool. Then on the far side of the falls, where we were at next. The lower South Falls was beautiful. As you can tell, kind of a cascading falls, if you will. And you can walk behind it too. The Upper North Falls was in a different spot. You couldn't walk behind this falls, but it was a nice walk out to it, maybe 3/10 of a mile. Then we made our way toward Mount Hood and past Mount Hood to the Columbia River Gorge. We spent the night at the Quail Inn there in the Dalles, right next to the dam, but it was beautiful. Here you see a river ship. From the hotel, we could see the dam right here, and as they were pushing water out through to the Columbia River. Another picture of the dam, as it is from our hotel. One of the sunsets that we took, it was just gorgeous. Another picture of Mount Hood. Here's a bridge that actually goes over to Washington State. And so you can tell the Columbia River Gorge, actually the Columbia River, Oregon on one side, Washington State on the other. Here, Oregon is on the right, Washington State's on the left, from one of the viewpoints along a road that goes along the Columbia River Gorge. Here you find sturgeon fishermen. The season had just started, and so now they're out there hoping to catch a sturgeon. More pictures of the gorge. As you can see, it is a very beautiful place. There were windsurfers in certain areas. Now, some of these windsurfers were really good at what they did. You could also rent windsurfing equipment there. We didn't. The water was cold. I didn't plan on getting that cold. Here we go to Bonneville Dam. We can see some of the sturgeon as they make their way upriver. And some of the things that they have to climb up in order to even get to the upriver area. Here's one of the turbines that was in the dam that they've had to actually taken out. This is an osprey nest. An osprey is a large bird. As you can tell, it's a very beautiful bird. They have a fish hatchery there, and this is part of the view of some of the fish that was in the fish hatchery. Then we get into what's called Waterfall Alley. Several waterfalls here. I'll give you the description and the names of each one. The Horsetail Falls were beautiful. That's the first one we came to. Then you have Multnomah Falls, which probably is the best well-known falls. As you can tell, there are two separate, distinct falls. The bridge we went up to. This is the upper portion of the falls from that bridge. This is looking down as the water goes under the bridge down to the lower pool. And then this is the lower falls back down where we first began. Here's the Wakena Falls. As you can tell, it extends way up into the picture. Now here is the Lotoro Falls. I believe that's the way you say it. I'm not real sure, but still a very beautiful falls. The Shepherd's Dell Falls, beautiful long waterfall. Then we came to the Vista House. This was a beautiful place. As you can tell, it is an amazing place to come and overlook the Columbia Gorge. My wife loved the interior. Here's another viewpoint from just down the road at another stopover. I'd suggest you stop here. It is an amazing place that has beautiful views, probably some of the best in the gorge. As you can tell from this picture, you're well above the gorge, high up on a cliff, an outlook, if you will. Another picture of the gorge. As you can tell, our trip is winding down, but what a beautiful place to visit. Make sure that you spend some time here. Don't try to get through it too quickly. You'll miss so much if you do. And one last picture. This is taken from the airplane on the way home. You get to see Mount St. Helens and Mount Rainier together. Just an amazing thing. If you like what you've seen, please subscribe to my channel. There's more videos available and more coming.